Hey SCT students, this is Scott from PengPrep.com. Welcome to video 1 of Central Ideas and Details. I cannot emphasize how important these two qualities are for SCT reading. They are comprehension and retention. Comprehension is your ability to understand the passage. And it's important because if you don't fully understand the passage, you can't answer all the questions that could be asked about it. Sure, you could be lucky and get 1 or 2 questions right, but eventually it's going to catch up to you. Retention is your ability to store the information that you've read. And it's important because if you have good retention, then you can read the passage once, fully memorize it, and go to the options without ever looking back. That saves a lot of valuable time. So, how can you improve your comprehension and retention? You can use something called simplification. Simplification is a strategy where you break down the text to its essence. It's similar to a summary, but you only preserve the really important parts. Simplification improves comprehension because it forces you to analyze. I believe that you haven't understood something until you're able to explain it to somebody else. So by simplifying the passage to yourself, you can prove to yourself whether you've truly understood it. Simplification improves retention through active recall. By constantly reiterating the information that you've read, you can solidify that information into your head much better. Now that you've learned about simplification, I want you to simplify the information that I've just told you. Pause the video and try it yourself. Here's an example of how I would simplify this information. Without comprehension, you can't solve all the problems of a passage. Without retention, you lose time. So comprehension and retention are important, and simplification helps you to improve on both. We're now going to practice simplification. I want you to pause the video, read the passage, then simplify it in your own words. I'll assume you finished. Here's my simplification. Photography rose and portrait miniature declined. So people thought that photography caused the decline in portrait miniature. However, new evidence suggests that portrait miniature declined before photography. So the association between the two isn't as clear as it seems. If your simplification is similar to mine, then you can move on to the next step. But if not, I need you to read the passage again and re-simplify. It's essential that you have a foundational grasp of this text. Now, I need you to read the question, the answer choices, and pick the best option. When you do this, you must provide clear reasoning for why each option is correct or incorrect. Let's start with option D. Option D associates the decline in portrait miniature with the rise in photography. It says that people shifted their creative focus from portrait miniature to photography. But what was the passage about? The passage was about disproving that association, that portrait miniatures declined way before photography, and therefore that there isn't really an association between them. So option D directly contradicts what's said in the passage. X. Option C is incorrect because it's irrelevant to the passage. The passage isn't about the speed at which portrait miniatures decline. It's about disproving the association between portrait miniatures decline and photography's rise. So C is just irrelevant. Option B is also relevant to the passage. It talks about the relative importance and artistic merit of photographs to portrait miniatures, but that's not what the passage is talking about. The passage is talking about whether or not there's an association between the rise of photography and the decline of portrait miniatures. So again, it's irrelevant. Let's look at option A now. Many of you guys may be skeptical of this option because the passage doesn't mention factors other than the rise in photography. However, it's the best option because it's the only one that's relevant to the main idea. If you remember, the main idea is that there's no association between the rise in photography and the decline in portrait miniature, and A effectively addresses that topic. What's more, since the passage rules out a potential cause for portrait miniatures decline, it's reasonable to state that other factors must have been responsible for the decline. And hence, A is correct. Do you now see the power of simplification? While you go through the options, you can always refer back to the main idea, the essence of the text that you found in your simplified model. And if the option is consistent with that, then you mark it correct. If not, then you mark it wrong. Let's apply this to the next passage as well. Again, pause the video, read the passage, then try simplifying it first. Here's my simplification. Researchers lived in an impractical space and they reported positive effects. If your simplified model is similar to mine, move on to the next problem. Otherwise, revise it, then move on. For option A, there are 2 reasons why it's incorrect. First of all, the passage never mentions that this building is unsustainable. It does say how it's disorienting. It does say how it may not be functional, but it never says that it's unsustainable. B is also incorrect. The passage does imply that the environment is physically stimulating. It says that the effect is disorienting. However, the passage never says that this is the most effective way to make a physically stimulating environment, so B is wrong. For part C, the passage does say that Yamaoka experienced significant health benefits during his time in the building. However, it does not emphasize or reveal details about Yamaoka's perspective of the two researchers, so it can't be right. D is correct. The passage explicitly says that the space is impractical, and furthermore, Yamaoka's report, which says that he experienced significant health benefits, supports the fact that the building may improve the well-being of its residents. Now that you're getting the hang of simplification, let's discuss about how to simplify things better. To simplify well, you need to be able to identify important information in the passage very well. So how do we do that? Well, important information can usually fall into these 4 categories. The first thing is change. Whenever you notice a transition from an old to a new thing, you should note that down, whether that be a new research, a new idea, or a new perspective. The second is comparison or contrast. Whenever you notice that there are significant differences or similarities between 2 or more things, note them down. The next is cause and effect. If Y happened because of X, it's probably important. The last one is claim or conclusion. You can imagine that this is a strong statement in the passage which the majority of content in the passage revolves about. If this is too much for you, just memorize this one heuristic. Wherever you can place a transition word in the passage, that part of the passage is going to be important. So if you can naturally fit in words like although, therefore, in addition, consequently, then it's probably going to be important and you may want to pay extra attention to what comes after it. Now, pause the video, read the problem, and provide me your simplification. Here's my simplification. Mexican-American women adopted this style called the Pachuca. Many people looked at it badly, but historians consider it a medium of self-expression. Notice how I use the word but to contrast the perspective between the ordinary people and the historians. So the important information in this passage is being conveyed through a contrast. A is incorrect because the historians don't emphasize the popularity of the Pachuca style, they show how it was a medium of expression for women. B aligns with the historian's perspective that the Pachuca style was a medium of self-expression and freedom, so it could be the right answer. C is wrong because there's nothing said in the passage that Mexican-American women dressed this way to support the United States. And D is wrong because there's no other fashion trends stated in the passage, and even if there were, the Pachuca style wouldn't be similar to those fashion trends. It says that the Pachuca style was a striking new look, so it's clearly different from others. So B is the right answer. Same routine. Pause the video, read it first, then simplify it. Here's my simplification. Initiatives that rely on natural features can help mitigate environmental destruction. One example uses logjams to help recover the population of blueback salmon. The type of important information here is a claim. What stands out in this passage is that initiatives that rely on natural features can help address these environmental challenges. Why does this claim stand out? Well, it's because everything that comes afterwards in the passage about the logjams and the blueback salmon is all used to exemplify that claim. So there's a lot of weight on that original claim. Now, go through the options and pick the best one. Remember to provide the reasoning for each. A is incorrect because it focuses on the wrong part. It focuses on the collaborative aspect of the example, but the passage focuses on relying on natural features. It highlights the fact that this partnership used logjams, natural features, to help recover the population of blueback salmon. The fact that these two centers collaborated isn't too significant. B could be correct because it's aligned with the passage in talking about relying on natural features to help conserve the environment. While C is factually correct and shown in the passage, it's incorrect because it doesn't demonstrate the main idea of the passage. The main idea is that conservation can rely on natural features. The example itself, shown in C, doesn't tell us anything about the main idea, so it's wrong. Part D is unsupported by the passage. While the passage says that conservation can rely on natural features to help address environmental challenges, it doesn't mention that this nature-based approach is more effective than the non-nature-based approach. Therefore, B is the correct answer. Here's my simplified model. People thought that the cerebellum was used for motor function, but researchers found that it's also linked to reward processing. A is incorrect. The purpose of the passage is not to confirm the already known motor function of the cerebellum. It's to provide evidence for a new function that has been undiscovered, that the cerebellum is linked to the motivational and reward processing center. B is incorrect because the passage says nothing about this new pathway being challenged. C is well aligned with the passage. The passage does demonstrate that there's a new function discovered for the cerebellum, mainly processing rewards and motivation. D is incorrect because the passage never says that technological limitations hindered the study of the cerebellum. It says that the widespread acknowledgement of the motor role hindered recognition of other functions. Therefore, C is the correct answer. In summary, the two most important qualities in SAT reading is comprehension and retention. And to improve on those two qualities, you need to simplify the passages you read. Now, your simplification must include only the essential information in the passage. And there are 4 types of essential information: change, comparison or contrast, cause and effect, and claim. Now, of course, you should not simplify every passage in the exam. That will take way too long. We will be only simplifying during practice so that we can build our comprehension and retention and elevate our general reading abilities for the exam. As always, practice problems and notes for this lesson are uploaded on pengprep.com with the link in the description below. In our next video, we'll apply our simplification to much more complicated problems. I'll see you then.